Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Start Small, Think Big podcast brought to you by Digital Meld. My name is Brad Groux, founder and CEO of Digital Meld. And this week, we're actually going to take a slight detour. Last week, I had the pleasure of speaking at the World Affairs Council of Houston. I've talked about them in past podcasts, but the World Affairs Council is a nonprofit organization. They're all over the United States. Visit worldaffairscouncil.org, and you can find your local one. Our one here in Houston is actually really great because we're such an international city. We're plugged in to so many nations, so many consuls are here. I've been an avid member of the World Affairs Council for about a year, and this past week I had the ability to have a conversation with them as part of their learning series that they do for their memberships and the people at large across Houston. And we spoke about artificial intelligence because that's what I know. And then in the past, I discussed things about the geopolitical aspects of it, the power constraints, the chipset constraints, battle for Taiwan and China and the South China Sea. So I kind of wrapped it up into a 1-hour learning session with the World Affairs Council. And for the people who attended, they got a certificate and a completion. And it's more about just, again, spreading knowledge and, trying to strike away the fear of like AI and the fear of the unknown to the folks at large. And so what I'm going to do is going to share the recording from that session. And then also as the recording's up, it's me presenting to a room of about 50 people. I'm also going to share the slides X that I shared. And I encourage you next Monday, the newsletter for this release will be there. And I will share all the cited sources within the notes from there, direct downloads for the slides in both PowerPoint and PDF format. So you can actually reuse some of that information, because I was lucky enough to attend an event by Kung Fu AI here in Houston for business leaders to discuss AI a couple weeks ago. I was in the middle of preparing my slides for this session. I've been playing this session for a couple of months. That I used some of the slides that they provided because what they were doing was much in line with what I was already planning for and what I was already thinking about. And so I really just think I want to pay it forward. They paid it forward to me by providing me with their slides. I'm paying it forward to you to provide me my slides. And so maybe you can take my slides and take it to folks within your company, within your classroom, within your organization, or just your friends and family who may be really fearful of AI and what the unknown of AI, right? I'm not really sure how this is going to turn out. I'm recording this right now as I've seen the video recording of the session, but I haven't piece it all together yet. So I have no idea what's going to turn out. Hopefully it turns out really well. It is a question and answer. So our people be asking questions. If you're listening on audio, I'll do my best to like boost those audio clips of when they're asking questions, because they didn't have a microphone. They were just in the audience. For those watching on video on YouTube or Spotify, I'll actually add the subtitles to there as well to make you, hopefully you can hear those questions too. So thank you. I really appreciate everything. If you're not involved with the World Affairs Council, and you really care about AI, I would get involved with your local chapter and or just know more about the government sector, because the only way we actually get there is with the private sector and the public sector working together. The only way we can meet the infrastructure demands, the only way we can meet the power demands, the only way we can meet the trade demands, because we import 90% of our AI chips from Taiwan with the TSMC company. So it's really important. So call your congressmen, call your senators, and let them know that AI is important and you think it's important, that we need to do the right things and set the guardrails, set the oversight, but also open up the thought and open up the leadership. And we need to be at the forefront of that as we compete with the Chinas and the Russias and Irans and North Koreas of the world.
You are here for our Global Exchange series. The Global Exchange is designed to provide an in-depth exploration of topics like trade tariffs, immigration policies, sports diplomacy, cybersecurity, and more, led by renowned experts, policymakers, and industry leaders. Through real-world case studies, practical exercises, and engaging discussions, participants learn the intricate connections between nations and gain tangible skills that can be applied across all industries. And for those of you who left work early, we'll give you a certificate today so that you can prove to your boss that you did come here and you didn't go straight home. Today, we'll explore how AI is reshaping everything, from corporate innovation and labor markets to the ethical governance and geopolitical dynamics. But I promise you don't want me to talk about that with you today. So instead, it's my pleasure to welcome this founder and CEO of Digital Meld, Brad Groux. Take it away, Brad.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I didn't expect this big of a turnout, so I appreciate you all taking the time. North 610 is never fun to navigate through. So I have a lot of slides. I'll go through really quickly. I have ADHD. I talk really quickly. If you need me to stop, just raise your hand. Bark at any time. I like having a conversation rather than just barking at you. We're going to be talking about AI for business, society, and global affairs. AI is not just about technology. And we tell this to our business leaders all the time that we speak to, that it's not just about technology. And we'll kind of discuss that here in the future. If you want to know a little bit more about me, you can scan that barcode. That's my contact. If you'd like to, I have cards over here. Please feel free to reach out. But this isn't about me. If you'd like, if you reach out, grab one of my cards, email me, I can send you all of these slides. Happy to send you the slides so you can refer back to them. I source everything as well, so if you want to dive deeper into what we talk about, feel free to do that. Just more about me. I've been in technology, since the late 90s. Everybody remember Y2K? I got into technology. I was going to be an engineer. I was in drafting in high school and my first couple years of college. And then my best friend's brother said, I can get paid $25 an hour to update computers for Y2K. I'm like 19 years old, broke, sold. And so I updated computers for Y2K and then never kind of looked back. Fell into a job at NASA and then did some contract work at all the big companies here in Houston, and then spent a couple years at Microsoft, and get to see a lot of internal workings of many organizations. And then a couple years ago, decided to start my own company, mainly because I don't like the corporate IT world all that much. But I've been living this my entire adult life. I'm a geek. I eat, sleep, and drink it. I never stop talking about it. I have a podcast to talk about it if you want to hear me drone about it for 14 or 15 hours. Artificial intelligence isn't just, people think it's software, but it's not. For the most part, it's an infrastructure problem. And that is AI and data centers. That's data centers, and then also GPUs and or the hardware that goes inside those data centers. That's energy, and then that's the code, that's the knowledge, that's the people writing the code, training the models. It's the intellectual property, if you will. And I think this is kind of different than most other technological revolutions, because obviously the energy sector has a lot to do with the government, right? So you can't just go build your own power plant and run your own transmission lines. There's a lot of things you have to do that. So we'll talk about some of those things coming up. We'll touch base on the geopolitical implications and that towards the end of the slide deck. But just know that it's going to be a three-pronged problem, and I'll probably reference that several times. AI has been around since the late 1930s, early 1940s. Most people don't realize that. That's whenever we had the idea for AI. But just decades of research from that time. DARPA invested in it in the early 70s, as an example. So we never saw the fruition of that, mainly because the technology wasn't there to run the systems. But the foundations, and we'll get to that in just a second, of AI have been known for quite a long time, since the 1940s. What we're doing with AI today, the foundations were set in the 1940s. We've been here before. Well, the top line, for those that are around in the mid-90s, I graduated high school in 1997. That was AOL was my first introduction to the internet. I'm sure it was for many other folks. But Netscape came around in 95. And then businesses start seeing it, getting aware of it in early 96. And then 97, the first major investments for most organizations, large organizations, Fortune 500 companies really, hit. And then in 98, it snowballed from there. And then 99, and then obviously 2000 plus the bubble burst. But artificial intelligence is following that trajectory much the same way, just 25 years later. ChatGPT launched in 2022. Most people didn't really hear about it until the first major awareness in 2023 with ChatGPT 3.5. That's whenever it actually became quite usable and you could actually get good things out of it. And then first AI development, major investment across most business sectors started in early 2024 and has accelerated again. And then we don't really know what's going to happen in 2026, but we do know there's been over $1 trillion of pledged investment from private organizations in the United States to the infrastructure of AI. So that should tell you that how much they believe in AI. And as an example, Microsoft has stood up one of the decommissioned 3 Mile Island nuclear reactors because they need the power. So if a private organization is willing to take on that burden, you have to think that there's probably returns to be made there. So when we talk about AI, we're talking about a lot of different things. And so this next couple of slides will kind of break down what that terminology is. Artificial intelligence just refers to systems with the ability to learn and reason like humans. I think we've all seen 2000 Space Odyssey, how we've seen Terminator. We always think of the worst possible things, but artificial intelligence is an overall bucket that includes a lot of different things. But these systems can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision making, and language translation. Again, I would imagine most people in this room have probably come across AI at some point in their lives. An autocomplete on your phone, that's AI. It's at its most simplest terms. Autocomplete in Microsoft Word, AI. So artificial intelligence, planning and scheduling, natural language processing, I won't read all of these things, but computer vision, those all kind of fall in that AI bucket. And then machine learning is a branch of artificial intelligence that focuses on building systems that can learn from and make decisions based on data. So you provide the models with data, you train it on that data. And so you can train it specific to a central thing. If you want to train a vision learning model to tell you all the different types of apples, you just give it tons of data about apples. You just give it lots and lots of pictures of apples. And that's what machine learning is. You're teaching it to learn how to look at apples. And so machine learning, it has decision trees and classifications. Again, this is all really technical mumbo jumbo, but just know that artificial intelligence includes machine learning, but not all of artificial intelligence is machine learning.
So machine learning is kind of a subset of artificial?
Yes. Yeah, you will see these are like nesting dolls. They'll just keep nesting and nesting. And so deep learning is a subset of machine learning that uses neural networks with many layers, a concept inspired by the brain's structure and functions. We'll get into the history of that, but we're literally modeling. Yes?
What is naive Bayes?
So naive Bayes is just a subset of machine learning that for exactly how you train that model.
Theorem, whatever.
Yes. Yeah. At the end of the day, AI is just all math. It's all matrices and ones and zeros. So deep learning is a subset of machine learning. Basically, everything you use today, ChatGPT and such, are part of this. Again, evolutional neural networks, backpropagation transformers. Again, this is how they train ChatGPT, these same sorts of things. Deep learning is currently the dominant approach to building AI systems. And we'll kind of see why that's the case now, but we diverged early on. And then finally, generative AI. That's probably what we all know, right? ChatGPT and Gemini or any of those other ones. We probably all use those at some point. Is there anybody here that hasn't ever used a chatbot? No. You've never used a chatbot? Go to chatgpt.com and your mind will be blown. Like, you just ask the questions and yeah. So generative AI, that's large language models. That's the majority of use cases for AI right now is large language models. And we're still in the infancy of AI. Maybe we're toddlers, maybe not infants, but we're toddlers. We're still way to get there. That doesn't mean that there aren't great use cases now, and that doesn't mean there's not a lot of things to learn for now, but we're still very, very early on. We're in the AOL days, the internet, right? Like, just imagine where we are from the internet perspective, where the internet is now based from AOL. So in summary, AI is just an umbrella term. Machine learning is a subset of it, but not all AI relies on machine learning. You probably don't need to know all of this, but just know whenever this is, I think, a real problem with businesses specifically. So if you have a business and you're like, we want to implement AI, there's a lot of questions that you're going to get asked by a consultant like myself whenever we go, and it's like, okay, what do you mean? Like, what are the use cases? There's just so many things you can do. If you're trying to start with your business processes or something, we can probably point you in the right direction. Again, we won't get into these. I won't go down these bullet points, but the goal right now, all this investment, the trillions of dollars of investment we're making, is to reach that first one, artificial general intelligence. And this is where the geopolitical aspect of it and the national security aspect comes in, because whoever unlocks that first, that's the HAL 9000, that's the Terminator 2 worst case, like it's sentient, right? It knows what it's doing. It doesn't need sources. That's where we're all trying to get to, because at the end of the day, we want to beat China. We just do. China's, not the greatest for freedoms and personal freedoms, and so that's why people are trying to, dump as much in they can into that. Artificial superintelligence is a theoretical form at a completely different level. We're many, many, many years away from that. Artificial general intelligence, you ask most people, they think 2 years to about 10 years. I think we're probably on the latter side of that, and for reasons we'll talk about coming up. But just know, artificial and general intelligence, whoever reaches that first is going to have an amazing leg up on everyone else. It's like being on steroids, and you're playing against Pee-wee players. So there's two paths to intelligence. Again, you don't need to know these. There's symbolic AI and connectionist AI. Basically, this is just from a history perspective, kind of showing you what those are. The left is more like a logic tree, if this, then that. And the right is more like a neural network, like the actual way our brains work. And as you'll see in this next slide, this is the history of AI, and this goes back to the 1930s. And if you can see at the top, the first 30 years we were connectionists. We were all the research and development was in there. And then in the early 60s, we made the flip to symbolic AI, and basically that created a dark winter of AI. If we wouldn't have done that, we would kept our trajectory of connectionists. Who knows where we'd be today? But in the early 90s, we flipped the switch back again and realized that training like our neural networks, training like our actual brains, is the correct way to go.
But we didn't have the technology to do it back then.
No, but if it could have worked in the theory, maybe they would have gotten there quicker. But yeah, we didn't have the silicon, we didn't have the compute. Who knows where it would be is the kind of question to ask. But right, you're correct.
The concept was there, but the technology was
Yeah, the concept has literally been there. Yeah, and right now is the convergence. The name of my company is Digital Meld because it's a play on. Sorry, Mom. That's my mom back there. But like a 1994 Playboy interview with Bill Gates, he talked about digital convergence and how he predicted things like Netflix and smartphones. And this is like 1994. I read this in high school. I just read it, Mom. I just read. Yeah, no. So yeah, who knows where we'd be, but I think we're converging now on we're getting the power, we're getting the chipsets have finally arrived and those things. We're finally getting there. Once we get over that hump, it's going to grow exponentially faster and faster.
And I don't want to get ahead of you here, but what you're saying is, as this evolution takes place, you intimated it a little earlier, that is the need for energy. And they say our energy needs globally are going to accelerate so much. I
have lots of slides on that.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But yes, we don't have enough energy.
I want you to tell us why. Is it to run all these machines?
Yes. But basically, our biggest concern right now is energy. Yeah. It is. And that's going to be the next thing for the next 15, 20 years. And, we can have the conversation about global warming and things like that, but whoever gets that general super intelligence first or general intelligence first is going to solve that problem. They're going to solve carbon capture. They're going to solve geothermal. They're going to solve storage of energy. Right now we store in lithium-ion batteries. There's carbon nano and other technologies that aren't profitable right now. But fusion, we know fusion, but how do we get it to where it's profitable? So there's just a lot of different things. Getting to that artificial general intelligence is going to be very, very important. So this is a neural network. We're not going to dive too deep into this. I did want to provide it for those who would care, but like a neural network is literally, that's how your brain maps data. And so a neural network is a layered system of interconnected nodes or neurons. Just think of neurons as buckets of data, just a little bucket of data. In this case, most of the time it's ones and zeros because it's a computer, right? So it's just dealing in ones and zeros. And it's inspired by the brain. And the geniuses in the late 1930s, early 1940s knew this. They figured it out. They thought this is how it would be, and it's taken us this long to kind of get up to speed and understand the full things. Even then, we don't even know how our own brains work, right? So we have no idea how a lot of these models work. Of course, Apple just released a paper this past week that kind of threw people a wrench into the plans. But even then, people are already doubting it because we just don't know. And that's why getting into artificial general intelligence is so important. At the end, the network learns by adjusting weights using back propagation to minimize errors and providing predictions over time. And so it's just math. If you know linear algebra, is anybody here really good at algebra? You could be making a lot of money right now in AI. If you know linear algebra, that's all this is. It's linear algebra. And we're going to give a little example of that. Again, we'll go pretty quickly on this because this is the stuff I'm an idiot about. So this is the number 4, right? So you're trying to do a vision learning model. You're trying to train AI to look at the number 4. And I highly recommended you go to the source, 3blue1brown.com, and they have this all for free. You can go watch it in extreme detail, and it tells you exactly how all of this works. But each level of the matrix, basically, it's feeding itself and it's learning more and more. We have an actual animation on this next slide. So if you notice, this is a 28 by 28 pixel picture, right? And it's just assigning data to each one of those pixels, and it's just numbers. And it's based upon this. It's putting numbers, so 0.0 to 0.2 to 1.0. So it's just ones and zeros. That's all this is. And that's how it knows it's a 9. Another quick animation, and I'm not going to dive too deep in this because I don't want to put everybody to sleep, but it's just giving you, it's taking the physical form and putting it into digital, and it knows it's a 7 because that's how it's trained itself. I highly, highly recommend, if you're into that stuff, ask me take my card, I have cards over here, and I'll send you the source, and you can go look at those things. Now that we know AI, in 2025, we're all hearing about Agentic AI, what is AI, Agentic AI? At the end of the day, Agentic AI is just AI with automation. Automation has been around since the Model T. Business process automation has been decades and decades and decades. And so just think that now you have a process and an agent, you insert AI anywhere in that process and it does a task. Again, like accounts payable is very, very common. Who doesn't have invoices they have to pay? What business doesn't have invoices they have to pay? So, hey, whenever I get an invoice, automatically take that invoice and scan it, put all the numbers into QuickBooks. You can train that process and do all that mostly automatic, and then go through, train it, go back and reconcile. But agentic AI just refers to a system that can perceive, reason, and plan. So we all know ChatGPT, that's a large language model. You put something in, it gives you something out. This is proactive. So it'll do it on a schedule, it'll do it with a trigger or anything. It's no different than really any other automation that you probably already have in your business. We won't dive into this very much, but agentic AI is basically, when they say automation is coming for our jobs, this is what they're talking about. They're talking about agentic AI. So the problem right now is it can only really do tasks for about 4 minutes. So like chains of tasks, you can have A through Z. Let's say you have a business process and you're going A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you get to about 4 minutes into whatever that process is, and then it starts having hallucinations. So it's doing simple tasks now. It's doing elementary or high level tasks, maybe, some high school level tasks. But in 2 or 3 years, once we have more compute, once we refine these models, that's going to keep going up and up and up. And eventually, the next 10 years, they predict, it can do like 8 to 10 hour tasks, what's that? It's a work day. Right? But there are already places where AI already outperforms people.
What makes it start hallucinating after?
They don't really know why they don't know why things hallucinate all the time, but they do know mostly it's because just once it hasn't been trained well enough. So we'll get into the training a little bit, but.
Is it when there's a step-by-step process and it's using its previous results in this one?
It could be that. It could be because it's never actually been trained on that. Because that's the thing too, is these are generative models. Their goal is to generate stuff. You've all probably, whoever used ChatGPT regularly, probably get responses like, that's so weird. It hallucinates. And it's because it's a generative model. It doesn't never tell you, I don't know. It fills in the gaps, right? It's a BS artist. It is. And so if you don't have all of the stuff where it needs to be, it's going to BS you right out of a job. And it's already done that for some folks. So They're all, it's only as good as how you train it and how you prompt it. But they're all, I'd say most of AI right now get you 70, 80%. The last 20%, you need to always have the human in the loop, right? Yep.
But then some of that output that, like you said, is hallucinated, goes back and feeds the next model.
Exactly. And so that's where ChatGPT actually had that happen with one of their latest models 4.0 that they actually had to roll back because there's also internal biases and ethics. There's lots of different things. And so they were testing it internally, but since they knew how the model was actually written, how they were prompting the model was not how the masses would prompt the model. And so there was a big, kerfuffle about that, and they had to roll back one of those changes. And again, the problem is we're building the guardrails as the train's going down the track, So, and the only way we kind of have to do that because we're trying to beat China. And it's global. It's the new Cold War. I'll say that. Some people think that's hyperbole. I don't believe it's hyperbole because China and Russia already hack businesses every day. Hundreds of billions of dollars of ransomware attacks every year, across U.S. organizations. If they have artificial superintelligence, they can go out and do all of that for them. This is going to happen more and more and more. So, yep, they're going to use AI agents to do that, and we have to hope we have the AI security agents that could block it because there's just not enough manpower in the day. Again, won't get into this, but this is kind of what I was saying. The current models achieve on things like coding, writing, math, the stuff that's very defined, that's very easy for them to train on. If you're a philosopher, ChatGPT is not a great philosopher, right? Because that just takes, internal monologue and thought and things. But, there are current models where if the tasks are under 4 minutes in length, then just think that's multiple things they've chained together in an agent, that it's 100% success rate. And tasks over 4 hours are about 10%. Again, this is just more about, the big thing I really care about this one is that the length of tasks AI can do is doubling about every 7 months. And so if it's doing 4 minutes now, 7 months, 8 minutes, then 16, then 32, and 64, and it keeps going. And so in about a decade, we're looking at a business day that it could just automate a full business day for a normal business person, as long as it's trained on that person's data. And this is just the promise of agentic AI. Again, there's a lot of snake oil out there. There's folks out there right now say, oh, agentic AI can do all these sorts of things. They can't. Agentic AI at the end of the day is just process automation with AI injected in it at certain stops and props. The big thing is it's not production ready, agentic AI. And then the big thing is you're always going to need that human oversight. We say human in the loop is what we call it. For the foreseeable future, anything you're doing with AI, you should have a human in the loop, at least verifying the last step. You should be doing that. Because again, most of the models right now, accuracy is probably 70%. So ChatGPT is accurate about 75% of the time. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times in your business, you got to be accurate 99% of the time, right? And there's things like life and death use cases. It's got to be accurate 99.999, to 6 or 7 decimal points if it's a medical use case or something. So trends predict that in less than a decade, we'll see AI agents that can independently complete a large fraction of software tasks. So software engineers, that's one of the areas that it's actually coming for. But I think there's going to be, the beauty of this is as we grow, there's going to be more use cases than we know. And we'll kind of explain one of those use cases that we didn't realize in a moment. And this is why someone asked earlier, why is this happening so much faster? That's because of reinforcement learning. So basically, we're teaching AI like we teach kids, right? To just try over and over and over and fail, fail and fail, and just keep trying over and over and over. And that's basically what reinforcement learning is. And they get a reward based upon if they complete or not. It's how you train your pet how to, not use the bathroom in the house, that sort of thing. The problem.
How do you reward them?
So you can reward them based upon, within the code, you can reward them based upon you get to the next level, or there's just different ways you can program that in. Yeah, positive feedback basically. But here's the key. They also learn to cheat. They learn to cheat. So within 2 or 3 minutes of a model being learned to play chess, it also learns to cheat at chess. And so you have to build those guardrails. And that's the problem is a lot of businesses are, again, they're building the guardrails as they're building the train. So
Were they trying to blackmail the developer?
Yeah, and we're seeing that all over the place. And again, they don't really know why all that's happening. They just know the problem is when reinforcement learning accelerates the pace at which we learn, but it also can be gamed. And so that's the big thing. And this is really important if you have bad actors training models like this, such as China and Russia. What are they letting their models get away with? Like DeepSeek, we'll mention that one in a minute. But
can they have guardrails in there that they cheat only on the outside but not on the inside?
Yeah. Since there's so many hallucinations and so many times where that it's eventually it's going to bite the hand that feeds them. It just does until you set their guardrails enough. And I think if you take the time to put in all those safeguards, you're going to be left behind. It's just
the opposite. Somebody who is a bad actor.
Right.
says, okay, I'm going to use it for the purposes of being a bad actor.
Yes.
to a third
That's
party.
100% happening. Yeah.
That's happening, okay. But is that model then not potentially going to be a bad actor to its creator as well?
It could certainly. It depends on how they trained it, and it depends on what data they're using and what access they're giving.
It's self-reinforcing, does it, or self-learning, does it not?
But they do. You can't, with reinforcement learning, you can put up guardrails that say, please don't ever cheat. And you do the due diligence and test it and thoroughly and do all those things to make sure it doesn't cheat. You can make sure it doesn't cheat. But most people don't do that. Most people worry about getting to the finish line, and then if it breaks, if it blows up, okay, then we'll worry about it. Like the SpaceX way of doing things, right?
Yeah, if I'm just, the question's just totally off, but my impression was that the tech guys on the West Coast had put into the internet virtually all human knowledge, like everything in the New York Public Library. So to cheat would require a level of sophistication. I mean, to cheat on something really big would require a level of sophistication that is almost beyond human capacities. And that's the protection that we have.
My counterpoint to that is like they train it on all human data, right? There's plenty, millions and billions of but there's billions of recorded instances of humans cheating.
Which is almost impossible.
But there's billions of instances of humans cheating, like in the written word and.
Well, on little things, but on something that really matters, where lots of knowledge is required, it's pretty hard to do.
It's so important when you get to the general superintelligence or general intelligence. I'm very much like, we fly by the seat of our pants, and there's going to be accidents. There's going to be issues. There's going to be, like, I don't think we really have the ability because of the adversaries we're up against. I personally, that's how I believe. I understand, like, the European Union's very strong and stringent on, like, their privacy laws, but we'll see the spending on AI development, and you'll realize, like, we're pretty much fighting this alone. The only way we're going to do this, I think, because our adversary doesn't care. They're going to they'll burn the world to the ground. They will sacrifice all their people. They'll do everything. That's China. They're a communist state. Like, they'll do everything they can to get to that. We don't have to, like, wall in the mud with the pigs.
Lots of attempts. It's going to freak people out, but in the long run, it's going to be hard.
In the long run, it's going to cure cancer. It's going to solve our energy crisis. It's going to do all of those things. The physics is there. It's possible. It's just now it's a problem of the biggest thing is our energy. We don't have enough energy. Yes, ma'am.
So whenever you say it learns to cheat, does that mean it creates hallucinations in order to get the reward and just like spit out random answers?
Or it just realizes that to get the reward, it doesn't have to do as much work. Again, it's like Bill Gates has custom saying, hire the laziest man to do the hardest job. He's going to find the easiest way to do it. Like,
You wanted me to write a paper?
Yeah. I mean, what are your high school students doing now? Like, ChatGPT.
When you put a prompt in, should you ask it not to cheat?
You can, like, you should definitely, when you prompt, you should give it, like, I hate emojis, and it's always giving me emojis. I'm like, don't give me emojis. Even though you tell it, it doesn't mean it's going to follow those steps. But yeah, there's just a lot of intricacies and unknowns. And again, this is just another thing showing the reinforcement learning, but like, the research is clear that, like, there are two main learning paradigms of both children and AI: imitation learning, the supervised learning, and trial and error learning, the reinforcement learning. The reinforcement learning just outpaces it. I think we've all been there. Whenever you fail, you just learn, okay, I'm never doing that again. That was embarrassing, or like, that hurt. Yeah. You touch a hot stove, and you're only doing it once. And so this is just an example of, someone asked earlier, do we actually get anything from this? In 2016, Google's DeepMind, that's just their AI team, created Go. Does anybody know what Go is? It's like chess on steroids. It's like the Chinese chess. It's little black and white cubes. The little guy here actually created this with AI today. This whole thing was created with AI with Ask One Sentence. And they created that with AI. And basically, in 2016, this AlphaGo, so that's their model for Go, Google's model, played the best player in the world. This move 37, it did a move that no one would have ever thought. And Go has billions of moves, like billions of possible moves. And it did a move that no one ever would have thought of. And so just think that from a business perspective. This is a game that people have been playing. Go is 2,500 years old. So humans have been playing Go for over 2,500 years. And we didn't know about this move 37 until 2016. So just think from a business perspective, from a thought perspective, from what all our preconceived notions, these bots are going to tell us, like, you guys are idiots, like, these are other things you haven't even thought of. This is a game that's been played billions of times. There's been billions of Go games, and that was the first time that move was ever played in 2016.
Well, Brad, this is like the race of the moon. A lot of collateral damage, but all kinds of
Exactly. Oh, for sure. And I'm a fan of NASA and science, and like, that's what I always said. This is the new space race. This is the most important thing in humanity in the last 2,500 years. It just is. technological advancement.
It's going to be a new dawn of innovation.
Yep, because they just don't sleep. I know someone in this room probably works 60, 70 hours a week, and you're like, I couldn't get any more out of me. Well, these are all going to help you get more out and let you focus on the problems that are actually worth solving. Like how many people have something they do every day for 10 or 15 minutes in their job they wish you could automate? This is going to make that trivial. And that's 10 or 15 minutes a day. That's over an hour a week that you have extra time. And then, 50, that's a whole week's worth of time by the end of the year. And now just extrapolate that to all the other things you do.
So Brad, so I take your point, but it assumes that you know all the things you need to do all that higher thinking, but there's a lot of young people coming up that are coming up with this. So the concern I have is that people aren't going to learn the fundamentals in order to take that next step. It's the same concern I have with so many entry-level jobs going away. Those entry-level jobs are the training ground for those next-level jobs. How is this all going to shake out? I know you think this is going to be amazing, but I'm a little worried about what the impact to human beings is going to be. Just like social media has not been all that great.
You're 100% right. So we still teach kids reading, writing, and arithmetic exactly like we did in the 1860s. Our curriculum today is nearly identical. Obviously it's been updated, but it's the same standard. That's got to go away. We have to teach kids, in my personal opinion, that's got to go away. I'm not an educator, but in my personal opinion, you're going to have to teach people how to be problem solvers, how to have soft skills. My best friend is Arnold Castro. He's the assistant dean of AI at Texas A&M University. He was the first dean of AI to be hired to build that curriculum and to build AI into their curriculum. So they're telling them how to use these tools to actually deliver real world problems and solve real world problems. And I think that's what it's going to have to do. Instead of running from this, it's no different than a calculator. The TI-86 was real big whenever I came out. It's more than, you could actually program stuff in and cheat and all these other. So you're going to take TI-86s from everybody else because that 1% is going to be bad and put their whole test in there? No. But I think.
Never have a calculator.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
In other words, you never have a calculator.
Yep. I agree. If I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent and I have nieces and nephews and I tell them all the time, as long as I could tell them, we were talking earlier, but we had to know what the Dewey Decimal System was. We had to go look that up and go to the library. If I needed to know how to do something, I had to go find a book on it. Wikipedia came out in 2000, 2001. It's we have the internet now. And then YouTube. And now I just see this as a progression of that. And so it's going to come down to educating, from the parents and the community. It really is. Kids can't read, an analog clock, write cursive. I can't write cursive, but I don't blame them for that one. But I was an engineer, so I wrote everything cap.
So I may sound stupid, but if we know that AI is going to come up with all the right answers, but how do we know that humans are going to follow the right answers?
We don't.
That's the big entity here, that we may have the right answers, but will humans be the ones that will control and make those decisions, or will AI make the decisions for us?
I think for the foreseeable future, for the next 10 or 15 years, we're going to have humans in the loop. We're going to have to do that until we can trust these models with our lives. How many people have heard of Tesla's taxis? Tesla's taxis. My personal opinion is somebody who works with vision learning models, don't step foot in one of those. You know why? Because they're using cameras. That's the only sensor they're using. They're using cameras. Where Waymo is using LiDAR, radar, cameras, thermal. They're using many, many sensors to get the same sort of thing. So personally, I wouldn't want my family members to do Tesla full self-driving. I've been in a car doing it. It's amazing and things until there's fog or there's rain or there's shadows. It's just basic vision learning. And personally, I wouldn't want to do that. And that's an example of that. There's going to be people who are cutting corners. There's people doing it the right way, and how we navigate that is going to be really important.
What did you say? You said Tesla uses only cameras, and what was the other thing you said? That uses sensors and.
Yeah, so they use like a Waymo taxi, the automated taxis, which are coming to Houston this later this year. Yeah, so it's Google's automated taxi system that's been in San Francisco, and they're coming to Houston before the end of the year. They're in Austin right now, and they have 13 total sensors or 14 total sensors on the car, where Tesla has 7 or 8 cameras, but they're cameras, and it's very easy to fool a camera.
Only one type of sensor.
Yeah, it's only exactly. And I work with LiDAR and radar data. So LiDAR point cloud, it's far more accurate, gives you more insights, gives you depth. So it's just, personally, I wouldn't recommend it. Yes, sir.
Do you think cybersecurity will be replaced by AI?
I think it's going to have to augment cybersecurity. It's going to have to be augmented. I think all real technical jobs are going to be augmented. You're going to have the human and then human with AI. I think the human AI is always going. It's already, we're seeing that now with there are cybersecurity penetration testing as an example. I think it's going to have to, because you're going to have these AIs coming up with new ways. These agents, once they have general intelligence, coming up with new ways that problem 37, that move 37, that we never would have thought of. And the only way to thwart that is with something that's just as intelligent and quick on their feet.
Has anyone been thinking about how society's going to cope with all the jobs that are going to be lost?
No, so one of the things we're going to get to is basically the industry is going to be hit hardest first, I believe, is going to be transportation, which is 25% of our economy. So Aurora is the name of a truck company that, much like Waymo, they use LiDAR, radar, and cameras to do 18-wheelers. And they're doing those right now from Houston to Dallas every single day. They're on the roads right now.
No public officials are really knowledgeable enough to have the slightest idea.
No, I mean, it's like on the internet they were saying a series of tubes. It's going to be no.
It's going to be up to Elon Musk and his crowd.
Luckily, they have been having about the power thing, and specifically Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, went and talked with a bunch of other folks regarding, again, I have a podcast episode on this, which kind of spurred this conversation. If you'd like to reach out, I'll send you that. But like, they're starting the conversations, but we should have started this 10 years ago, is really what it is. We're way behind, way behind. Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is some very interesting sociological studies being made right now about the voting habits. People are starting to fear AI. It's an element that could be the most important segment of the voting population in the future. And the idea is that they will react very differently against the institution of bringing in AI. And so you'll find a split society between technology and people that don't want technology.
Yeah, and
that is very much a possibility.
That's been in science fiction since the dawn of science fiction, right? Like, there's going to be the people that are anti-science fiction for science, or anti-science for science, and I think that's very, very true. But that's the reason we have things like this. That's the reason I started my podcast. The name of my podcast, Start Small, Think Big. Like, literally start with the most basic things. Like, the goal is the good news is we do have people out there spreading the word and trying to get. It's just math. At the end of the day, it's literally just math.
But the reality is it's happening today. That's what these sociological reports show in looking at the election in the United States and looking at districts and everything else, that AI is a factor in many people's decisions that are negative to it.
Okay. Yeah, that's certainly something that should be worried about for sure. So basically, AI reasoning models, DeepSeek, I'm sure everybody's heard about this. DeepSeek, that was China, came out in January and just shocked the world with their DeepSeek model. And they used a reasoning learning model, and how they taught the large model taught smaller models how to basically become better models, which means they were able to use a lot less power and things. There was some corporate espionage with this. There was some things like that. But at the end of the day, they released it all under MIT license, so it was open source, so we could dive into the code, which is better, to me, I think, better for the industry. I'm a big fan of open source models like Meta, Facebook. Not a big fan of Facebook, but their Llama models are all open source as an example. Mistral is another big model. YOLO is a big vision learning model that's open source. I think open source is the real key, because that way everybody can have a look behind the curtain to say, how are they training this model? But as big business is driving the infrastructure costs mostly, obviously OpenAI and others are going to try to make it profitable. DeepSeek, in my opinion, was a good wake-up call for us. It got the congressional hearings started. It was a little bit tardy, but I think it was good. And so reasoning models, this is just a process flow of how a reasoning model works. And again, we won't dive too into this, but it's just a completely new way of thinking things, and a completely new way of training a model. And so we're still learning this stuff 80 years in, the best way to do this. So we have to assume, well, I personally have to assume, that these models are going to train us even better how to teach themselves. So, because these are just processes at the end of the day. And that's what I do for a living, is process automation. And Elon Musk, for all his flaws, he says the best process is no process. And it's not that he's saying no process, you shouldn't have processes. He says you should always be looking to refine your processes and streamline your processes. And that's why SpaceX is where SpaceX is, and Boeing is where Boeing is because they were stuck in their processes. So this, I won't dive into all this, but like a lot of people, AGI, they think artificial general intelligence, it's insight. But you have to remember who else is coming from. It's coming from the business owners. It's coming from the business leaders who own these companies. So, of course, they want you to develop and dive into them. For me, I think we're probably about 10 years away from AGI. just based upon the power consumption and things, but it will be within most of our lifetime. Like it just will be. And so we should be preparing now. We should be educating ourselves now. Gone are the days of getting a college degree, having a job for 40 years at the same company and retiring peacefully. You have to be a lifelong learner. You have to be a lifelong learner, and you have to pivot, and you're going to have to learn more. I'm not where I was when I started my career. I think that's just the beauty is now you can just ask these, hey, if you're an accountant and you're in a small company and you know that your job could be automated, go talk to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm an accountant. Here's my resume. I want to upskill and be ready for AI. And can you give me a 6-month plan to do that? And it's going to dump you out a pretty good 6-month plan to do that and at least get you started. So use these tools to help upskill you. And so we are now in the 6th wave of innovation. I'm not sure if you guys can read that, but basically the first wave of innovation was water power, textiles, iron. That lasted about 60 years. Then the second wave was steam power, rail, and steel, lasted about 55 years. Third wave was electricity, chemicals, and internal combustion engine. That lasted about 50 years. Then fourth wave, petrochemicals, electronics, aviation. That lasted about 40 years. And then 30 years was the fifth wave, digital network, software, and new media. So that's late 70s, early 2000s. And then now we're in the sixth wave, which is AI, IoT, robots, drones, etc. But if you notice, each wave gets shorter and shorter and shorter, right? And so if we unlock, AI is going to make our 7th wave come much faster, and then AGI is going to make our 8th wave come even faster.
What's going to be in 7?
So that's $1 million question, $1 billion question, probably $1 trillion question. So what does it mean for AI adoption in businesses? And so this is where some of the folks, maybe business folks in this room, are like, well, how do I get this started in my business? This is the world I know. This is the kind of metrics I show them. This is from MIT Sloan Management Review. 87% of business leaders believe that AI will give them a competitive advantage. And I will say 100% should have. Because how you run your business is specific to how you run your business. If you're a construction company, how you run your business is completely different than someone else that's even in the same industry. It's that last 20 or 30% is your secret sauce. That's what makes you special, right? And so when you train AI on your data that's specific to you, it's going to just give you that level up. AI fueled business growth. So 93% of this is a GMIT survey, but respondents agree that data strategy is critical to getting value from generative AI. So just knowing how your data is fed into these systems. So if you own a business, where's all your data stored? Is it stored in people's inboxes? Is it stored in file shares? Is it stored in someone's head? Because that's the thing, is we have a lot of baby boomers retiring soon, and we're going to lose a lot of internal knowledge, a lot of industry knowledge. And my friend termed it as like losing the Library of Alexandria over the next 10 to 15 years of just business knowledge. And like you said, a lot of these young folks haven't been trained up on how to do that. Apprenticeships aren't really a thing anymore. They generally aren't. So what are we going to do? We're just going to lose decades and decades of knowledge. And so if you have a business now, I would recommend just start having conversations with people. Just turn on a tape recorder or dated myself there, but turn on like Microsoft Copilot, turn off Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT and just record your sessions. Fireflies, they'll record it, and then you can have all of that. Like, hey, how do you do this process? I have no idea. Like, is it documented? 57% of leaders believe that AI and machine learning will be important in achieving business objectives over the next 3 years. Again, I think this should be higher because whether you're adopting this or not, your competitors are. That's just the way it is. If you're not doing it, your competitors are going to have a 2 or 3 year jump on you, and they're going to use these tools. And if from a non-business perspective, think of it for your individual job. Whatever job you're doing now, you can probably augment it at least a little bit with generative AI. And if you want to know how you can do that, I'd talk to people all day and every day about this. Happy to just have a conversation with you. Again, I'm a really big evangelist. I can't shut up about it if you can't tell. So these are about 10 minutes for them. I think is the most important part. So the rise of AI and data centers. Again, please reach out if you want the slide deck because I kind of went through everything really quickly. But basically, the rapid growth of AI-driven data center energy usage is basically killing our already crippled network infrastructure. Our energy consumption tripled from 2016 to 2023 in the U.S., so more than tripled. And we think it's going to triple again by 2028. And how many of you here in February, a couple years ago, whenever all the power went out for a week, right? Like, we know what it's like to not have power in this city.
Well, the big issue, too, is global consumption.
Exactly. Well, and
all the fifth world countries that are now third world countries and third world countries
yep.
that are becoming first world countries.
And the reason power consumption is how a computer works, how my laptop works, how that laptop works, and how like a AI server works is completely different. They use what they call GPUs instead of CPUs. And so they're using much, much more energy. They're using way more energy. And again, this is from an actual government-sponsored energy usage report. I think Berkeley is the one that put it out. 2024 is put in front of Congress and everything. But basically, the AI workloads require specialized GPUs intense servers. And the significant power increases, again, 580 terawatt hours by 2028. Yes, ma'am.
I might be getting ahead of you, but what type of energy do you see is the best use for AI?
all of the above. And you have gotten ahead of me, but like basically all of the above. We don't have enough energy. We have to throw everything we can at it because China's going to throw everything in account, which is this. So China's throwing coal, solar, geothermal, hydroelectrical, nuclear, like everything. They're building, I think they have a dozen or like 10 or 12 nuclear reactors either in planning or being built. And then nuclear reactors traditional nuclear reactors take 8 to 10 years to stand up. So just know, if we're already struggling now in 8 to 10 years, like we're way behind. Again, Microsoft stood up one of the 3 mile hour reactors that was taken down in 2019. They're investing $100 million to make sure that happens. And that's a reactor that was built in the 1960s. It's
the new modular ones, they say.
Yeah, so nano reactors is basically what they think the future is. But really, big thing, again, there's an AI race against China. China's rapid expansion is basically what's driving our growth as well. Because again, the companies, capitalism, the companies here don't want to lose to China. Yes, sir?
What does this mean for Europe, who's shutting down nuclear power plants?
Yeah, so we're about to, let me get to that really quick. So our NATO allies are falling behind. They're not even existent, to be honest. In this whole race, they're not even existent. The European Union is non-existent basically in this race for mostly regulatory reasons. It's why would you build this? You can't, because they make it almost impossible. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but this is AI investment by country from 2013 to 2024. United States, $470 billion, almost 471. China, $120 billion. United Kingdom, $28 billion. Canada and Israel, $15 billion. How is Israel out investing all of the European Union? Germany, France, it's baffling. And so
they have their own Silicon Valley.
Well, and that's because out of self-defense necessity, right? So the same thing. We have to have our NATO allies, or we're just going to fall behind. And so we have to play politics. We have to play nice and say, please, if nothing else, give us your talent.
So that's the past 10 years. What do the past couple of years look like?
Just the private sector in the United States alone, within the last 12 months, has pledged $1 trillion. Like just the private sector.
Yeah, but the others, have they kept?
No, they're still minuscule. They're still not. Now, France has decided to, they're the only one basically in Europe that is standing up nuclear reactors at this point.
But energy is the limiting factor.
Yeah, and so basically, this just goes back into the flaws with basically them not being there. But energy is the problem, right? So if we unlock AGI tomorrow, we wouldn't be able to power it. And so we've unlocked it, but it's just going to sit there because we don't have enough servers to do it. Yes, sir?
Yeah, where do the Gulf states play in this role? I've been reading where they are building fantastic energy sources besides their oil and gas, solar, and...
Well, they see the writing on the wall, right? Once AGI comes around, we're not going to need fossil fuels as much anymore. So that's why they're doing it. But again, a lot of what they do is smoke and mirror, like the wall or the 100 kilometer long, the line. Yep. A lot of people are chasing the money there, like the golfers who just chase the money there. Is it actually real? I think all the really smart people want to be here. They just do. I mean, it's just the way it is. Transmission lines take 8 to 10 years to build, just like nuclear reactors, like the high power transmission lines. So what they're doing is, like South Dakota, is building natural gas plants next to data centers. So they don't need transmission lines. And again, they have lots of land. And so they're actually, again, much like Georgia has done and Texas is doing, they're trying to woo businesses, hey, build your data centers here. We have plenty of land, we have plenty of resources. Because on top of power, you also need water. So we can't build out in West Texas, right? You need water to cool. Luckily, all the new ones they're closed loop systems, water systems, but at the end of the day, you still need lots and lots of water to cool those. And again, GPU intensive servers take more water to cool than a traditional server as well. But natural gas and nuclear are the bridges. Texas A&M is building some nuclear reactors with corporate partners. The micro nuclear reactors that Bill Gates and Eric Schmidt have invested in, I think, is the real key. The goal is to get to AGI so we can scale up fusion power. We've unlocked fusion power, but now it's taking exponentially more energy to produce their fusion power. So we just have to, learn from iterative cycles. But this is a geopolitical problem. Again, TSMC is something we haven't even talked about. So South China Sea, TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Company, they account for 90% of all AI chips. And they're, 80 miles off the coast of China? And China wants them really, really badly. And then so that's why with the CHIPS Act, President Biden signed the CHIPS Act and they've started building TSMC in New Mexico. That factory is up and running, but it's going to take 2 or 3 years to get fully up to speed. So we're looking at 2028, 2029 before that's there. So we have to hope for the next 2 years. That's why Diego Garcia is also up, just geopolitical perspective. So Diego Garcia, UK may be giving that back from colonialism. And so are we going to rent out Diego Garcia? Are we going to lease it till like 2099? Or because for those that don't know, Diego Garcia is where we're doing the bombing runs on the Houthis. So, yes, ma'am?
Just thought across my mind. Are there any good energy stocks?
She's ready to do some investing here.
Yeah, I would look into all the startups that are working on, those like micro reactors. There's quite a few of them. Those, yeah. So the micro nuclear reactors, basically, you can stand those up really quickly.
Do you think that I've seen that the fusion industry is sucking a lot of the young talent. Do you think that AI could actually help overcome the problems that we're seeing in fusion energy so that fusion energy can help AI?
Yeah, so this is where the knowledge transfer comes into. So most AI students now are Chinese. 8 out of 10 people learning about AI and computer science are Chinese. Most of them don't want to be in China. I've talked to quite a few of those students at Texas A&M and other schools, but we don't have enough knowledge. We don't have enough people going into STEM. Like, it's just not something we have an engineer shortage for decades, right? Like, we literally have, and like this is exponentially higher. So we're going to have a shortage for decades, and it's going to be a power play based on that, based on the new like Palmer Luckey with Anduril and Palantir, all these defense contractors. They can just throw money at people, and so we have to have some kind of education reform of some sort because we're just way behind. Yep.
We have the best schools, but we don't have the best students.
Right. And then also too, like we have, like Harvard University has $53 billion in their endowment. Why aren't they building data centers? Texas A&M is, and they have 1/8 of that. Why aren't they? The University of Texas, I think it's $48 billion in their endowment, and they're waiting for government funds and backing to build data centers. Like, you have $48 billion. Like, go build a data center. Because the problem is we don't have enough compute. My company, whenever I need compute, I go to Azure or Microsoft Cloud, or Google Cloud or Amazon. I have to wait in line because I'm not a big enough customer. I can't just say I need these because there's just not enough compute to go around. You have to have a true business case. And this is happening to businesses all over the world, and it's going to continue to happen as more and more people adopt AI.
Our AI energy requirements are confusing.
Oh, people are already, crypto's not done. Like, Bitcoin's going to be around, but people are taking the cards they were using to mine crypto, and they're turning them into AI because it's more productive, basically. And so, just wrapping up, we're at time here. So we need research, planning, strategy. That's the only thing that gets us a victory. Project a scenario for AI-driven energy demands, optimistic versus pessimistic. We need to just throw everything at this problem. I care about Mother Nature. I know greenhouse gases are a thing, but we have to hope that solving these AGI problems is going to help us unlock those, geothermal and better storage options for things. The importance of strategic long-term planning for sustainable AI operations. This is going to take more than just a company. OpenAI with SoftBank working with President Trump and doing others. That's a start, but I still don't think it's enough to compete with, because China's throwing literally everything at it. They'll sacrifice all their people if they have to. So we have to. We're a capitalistic society, so we're generally like, well, what's the ROI on this? The ROI is not always immediately tangible. And the opportunity to bolster our energy infrastructure, this is just something that's going to, in Texas specifically, we have our own power grid, and we've been the butt of many jokes the last couple of years because of that power grid. And so we just have to, I encourage everyone, call your senators, call your representatives and tell them that AI is important to you in the future of this country.
So what's the end game here? You're saying whoever gets there first. Whoever gets there first, what, rules the world?
Possibly. We don't know. So it's an unknown. It's like we didn't know what would happen whenever we discovered the nuclear fission, but we know we need to be there first. I think this is very much the same. This is an Oppenheimer moment, in my opinion. It's just a knowledge bomb instead of, an actual bomb. Because, yes, sir?
What exactly is the pot of gold at the end?
It's information dominance. So instead of having military superiority with firepower, now you're having that with firepower but digitally. You'll be able to just look at our flight systems, on the East Coast, like a really good agentic AI with artificial general intelligence. What could they do at LaGuardia and, and up there with the, their flight issues they're having in Newark? Yeah. There's just, who knows?
Will you know when you have it?
We'll know. Well, yeah, there is because again, like that, like whenever we look at AlphaGo, that move 37, that was like, oh my God, that was like, I think the people who use ChatGPT for the first time and asked it like a really meaningful question and gave you the first response, you're like, oh my gosh, like you haven't done that. Like go get philosophical with it. Go ask it. I ask it like theological questions all the time. Like, what does this Bible verse mean? Like, it just gives you the whole backstory. And like, oh, can you give me the original transcription for that? And it will. And so be curious, I would say.
A friend of ours used it her air conditioner went out, and she said, how do I tell what happened to it? And it told her to take a picture of her open air conditioner, and after about 5 different questions back and forth, it told her what the problem was, a coil or something. It's
like whenever you had to change the oil filter in your car, you would go to YouTube, right? Like in the last 10 or 15 years, like now you have something that it literally gives you explicit instruction. You can say, talk to me like I'm an idiot, and like pull it in 20 different steps. And I've done that, like how to explain some of this stuff. I'm like, please tell me I'm an idiot, so please. Yeah. Not just that, talk to it like they have voice now. So like while you're driving in your car, like just use it as a companion just to get your ideas down and just start feeling. Yeah.
No, I talked to a physician friend of mine, and one of the big, I think, a quantum leap is going to be in medical.
That's where the big ones are right now.
Diagnostics, you say, my right shoulder is bothering me under such and such conditions. It's going to be able to give you a really specific diagnosis and tell you what the issue is.
So Northwestern just released a paper last week where their MRI, basically they've solved that. And so like how many of you waited for an MRI months, right? Or your X-ray, you've waited the results months. Now they have AI doing that. Cancer detection, that's something they can do. Vision learning is one of the easiest things you can do as long as you have the data to train it. This is what breast cancer looks like. This is what prostate cancer looks like. That's my big thing is like, it's going to cure cancer sooner rather than later. Wow. Yeah. All right, I think we're at time. I'm happy to chat much further, but thank you again for tuning in. We'll be back to our regular episodes starting next week. We have a lot of great guests lined up. We'll be like guests back to back to back guests. And so look forward to that. And these are really, really smart people. We'll have a marketing folks. We'll have someone from the Hollywood world. So if you're wondering about like AI revolution with videos and things, we'll have that. If you'd like to know more about us and where you can follow us, check out our newsletter. If you go to linktree.com/digitalmeld, you'll be able to find everything. Or just look for Start Small, Think Big on your favorite podcast platform. Also Start Small, Think Big is the name of our newsletter on LinkedIn. So search that. Or follow myself, Brad Groux, BradGroux, on LinkedIn, and I post about it all the time. Yeah, just be curious. You can do this. The theme I tried to portray to this group of people was to be curious and to not be afraid. It's the unknown. We're going forth, right? We're going forth into the unknown. To me, I think we're best as humans whenever we're going forth in the unknown, right? Whether it was the expansion across the oceans or expansions west of the United States or expansion to space and the moon and now to Mars. I think we're at our best whenever we're pushing ourselves and we're in that area where we're uncomfortable. That's when we think our best, and that's when we're focused our best, I think. So just treat AI like that. Be curious. Use these tools. Again, I'm always happy to answer questions. Reach out to me at any time to book a meeting with me on our link tree. There's all kinds of great stuff. So there's really no excuses other than if you don't have enough time. I get it. But hopefully you can find the time to expand your horizons and branch out and do great things. The beauty of technology is it is a great equalizer. You have the ability to punch above your weight class and compete with the big boys as a solopreneur, as a small business, as a medium-sized business, as a small enterprise. You can compete with everybody because you have access to all the same tools they do. They just have a little bit more industry knowledge than you do, but that doesn't mean you can't augment that with some of the knowledge out there. And so thanks if you stuck with us this long. The Start Small, Think Big podcast is released every Friday, and our newsletter is released the following Monday, and we release clips Monday through Friday on YouTube and TikTok and all kinds of stuff. And so the outreach has been fantastic. We're getting more and more people who want to be on this podcast. I'm being guests on other podcasts. And so just follow us on LinkedIn and you'll get access to all of that great stuff. We're learning, you're learning, and let's just learn together, and let's learn how we can harness the power of this AI for good. Until next week, go forth. Bye-bye. We want to hear about your AI and automation journey, and we'd love for you to get involved with Start Small, Think Big. If you'd like to participate or offer feedback, please reach out to us anytime via email at contact@digitalmeld.io or use the contact form on our website, digitalmeld.io/contact. Also, please help spread the word by liking, subscribing, and sharing our podcasts on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks.